Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
'Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM, CITR CA online. Broadcasting from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Pander.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenhower.
If you're listening to this show on the podcast, this is episode 202. I don't know what we're going to talk about this week. It's been such a quiet week. So I think 2 hours to fill, probably just end up talking about Twin Peaks, maybe tonight's Money in the Bank, WWE. Can't really think of any big football talking points. Can you?
Here and there. I think we were busy a little bit this week with news.
Well, it has been a very difficult week in Whitecaps land. And
in Canadian football land.
Yeah, and well...
Started out nicely.
Yeah, I mean, we did our podcast on Thursday and we looked at the training centre. That was a positive, at least.
It was recorded, we recorded it on Wednesday. We released it on Thursday. And at that time, it was not too bad.
Yeah.
We just had one incident at that time.
Yeah, and the 2 days after that is where it's got a little bit tricky. And, well, we'll start off, we'll address the elephant in the room. There's no way we can not talk about what has been a bad couple of days for the Whitecaps off the pitch. Now, we tweeted this out. On AFTN, we're not going to write any articles about the Residency incident or the Sharon Williams incident until the judicial system has taken its course and all the facts are known. And I really would recommend or implore people to kind of wait a little bit until you get some facts without jumping to speculation. Obviously, the internet is the internet, but there's been a lot written already on message boards, on Facebook, on Twitter, and articles about the incidents. And we've a lot to say about it. I have a lot of feelings about it. I want to wait until justice takes its course before we go into all the details with it. There are some things, though, that we do have to mention. That the Residency incident, first of all, obviously, minors are involved in that, so you have to really be careful in what you say about such things. But depending on what happens, depending on what the courts find, the one thing I feel the club has to do coming out of this is address parents' fears, whether these charges are proven or not, but to address parents' fears, especially parents of out-of-province kids, that the residency environment is a safe place for the children to come and for children to take part in football activities and a safe dressing room experience.
Well, one thing I can mention, and I did tweet something out, and I think what I should say again, I mentioned in the tweet, if these are proven true, this is what should happen. And I think people are forgetting that I know the accusations are out there. People have been arrested. People have been arrested before for things, and they've been found innocent. So wait the time. You're right. Don't, especially people with victims involved. Don't start speculating and putting out there who the victims are and who what should happen to who. Let everything work itself out, and It's important to do that because people the victims need their time. The people who are accused of these crimes need their time to figure out, like, you know, if they're what should happen to them. So it's about time right now. And the other thing about I kind of spent some time after the residency stuff, talked to some people that I know from previous years, and to a T. Obviously, you have to take this with a grain of salt too, but I told them anonymity, nobody's going to be mentioned. But to a T, they said that nothing like this has ever happened. There's been harmless pranks where you throw water on each other, dump out, like, you know, the birthday stuff that Whitecaps do,
the ice
bucket,
things,
whatever.
Yeah.
You do that kind of stuff, but nothing to this extent. And so, and a lot of even the older guys have said they've never heard of this stuff because they keep in touch with what's going on and the stuff too. It's a pretty close-knit family. So that's what I've heard. So Zach, your thoughts?
I think Michael makes a really important point in terms of when you are entrusted with someone's children, it doesn't matter how old they are, when they're minors, that is a pretty sacred trust. And when that gets broken, intentional, whether it's by adults or by other children, when there's questions about the safety of it, like, yeah, there's healing that will need to take place.
For sure.
And but even what you mentioned, Michael, about like whatever happens, reaffirming or creating or recreating a culture of safety or whatever. I don't know if that's even the right way to talk about it, but like, I'm just thinking, like, Tuesday we have our U18s who are traveling on, you know, to
U16s, U18s heading to Indiana.
Yeah, sorry, they're both going. Yeah, like I can imagine that a lot of effort is being put in to reassure those parents and those families that extra measures are being taken to make sure that everyone is safe. And yeah, it's as someone who works with minors, yeah, this is hard to hear. This is hard to like hear about and to like conceptualize. Yeah. And I can imagine, you know, whether. So we don't want to talk about ifs or whatever, but I can imagine how difficult this is for the adults who are involved over all of this. I'm panicked, like, right, like always hearing about these things. Because Zach, you have a young kid. My kid's 11 now, getting close to high school. So I'm like so always stressed out about what's happening in the school. Constantly asking him questions because you hear about all these stories. So yeah, I agree with you. It's stressful to hear about this kind of stuff happening.
And the thing is, there's been a number of allegations made. The victim's mother has been on Global, made a lot of allegations against the Whitecaps. Now, people have said to us, will you talk about what the mother said about the Whitecaps trying to cover it up, blah, blah, blah. Now, if that comes to light and the Whitecaps comment on it, we'll comment on it. We've got our opinions on it from what we've heard her saying. But just now, this is her giving her side of the story. The Whitecaps are refusing to comment on it because it's a matter in front of the courts. And you could say that's like a bit of a whitewash or whatever, but that basically they're keeping everything right because they can't say anything when a thing is up in court. The Shane Williams things as well, nobody knows exactly what's happened with that. He's going to be in court on Monday. Some more things may come out on Monday, but Robbo didn't really want to talk too much about it. Our thoughts, the club's thoughts, everyone's thoughts are with the victims and all parties in this just now. It's a difficult time for the club. It's a difficult time for the victims, just everyone involved, everyone that knows the people is affected in some way.
I do also just want to reiterate, like, similar to what Steve said, I had an opportunity to talk to a former residency player this week face to face and said, hey, what was your experience? Has anything crazy happen? Anything inappropriate happen in your time? What did that look like for you? And it was very similar to what Steve said, that nothing inappropriate. Yeah, there were nothing hazing-ish, nothing like that, and nothing obviously like this has ever happened in their time or for them that they ever heard of from others before or after them.
Yeah. The last thing we'll say on it is just urging people, please do not overreact. Do not draw conclusions before facts are known. wait till everything comes out. Once everything comes out, we have a lot to say about it. Trust us. There's things we've heard over the years as well, not to this extent. There's a whole thing to look at about club culture. That's all for down the line once justice has taken its course. Now, Shannon Williams, his absence, of course, hit the team. It meant there was a player suspended, and it hasn't been a good week off the pitch in terms of injuries as well, because our two Costa Ricans, and we kind of joked a little bit about it in the podcast midweek, but Christian Bolaños and Kendall Waston have come back from international duty, both injured. Kendall Waston looks to be 4 to 6 weeks. They're saying it's a muscle strain, could be a hip injury. Christian Bolaños, I was at training on Friday. He was running around fine, he was kicking the ball, everything looked good. He was favouring his shoulder a little bit. Concerning reports coming out in Costa Rican newspapers, though, over the weekend, that there are concerns that he may not be available for the World Cup qualifier in September. Now, looking at him running around, it didn't look like that, but the report there mentioned the fact that the Whitecaps are looking at this new kind of treatment that's been used in NFL players to try and avoid surgery. Either way, losing these two guys, compounded with the players that we've lost already, big worry for the Whitecaps going into the summer.
Yeah, and that is our general approach. And this is probably a longer conversation for either later tonight or another time. But that is we've talked about it a little bit. This is Rick Celebrini's approach to things, and Rick is.
They basically want surgery as a last resort, which is understandable as well.
Yeah.
And then you also have the situation Kikuta Mani's back in a boot.
That was yeah.
Yeah. But injuries. One of the AFTN writers, Chris Corrigan, Salish C86 on Twitter, had tweeted out a pretty good starting lineup of injured players or players that were absent. That was including like.before, who made his MLS debut in the game against Dallas on Saturday. But it was a good lineup. You could easily go 3-5-2 with it. 4-4-2 if you include absent players with Shannon Williams. So it's kind of worrying how much talent is missing from the Whitecaps just now. And then, of course, they headed into the game on Saturday. We are actually finally going to talk about football matters. They headed into the game on Saturday against FC Dallas, one of the top teams in the West. Back-to-back Western Conference champions. And of all the kind of games, you wouldn't want to go in to face a top team when you're having the week that they've had, missing top players. And it was a strangely subdued first half against Dallas.
Yeah, both teams seem to be going. They seem to going and have no problems going up and down the pitch, but I think it was an issue once they got to the attacking third. Neither team knew what they were doing. They got one team. They each got one chance, especially with the long balls. But when it came to like creating something, it was like there was nothing there at all.
Watching the game back on the PVR, everyone in the stadium was like, "Yeah, that was not a good half. Was not a good half of football. Period. Not just for the Whitecaps, but in general." And yeah, watching it back on the PVR, there was not a lot of free flowing football. One of the things I think as I was watching it is it felt like it was one of the key things that didn't happen, I guess, or one of the maybe people who underperformed in the first half a little bit. It was Tony Chani, because when you look at
he gave away the ball a lot.
No, but not the give. Actually, I'm not worried. Or that's not what I was focusing on as I was watching it. He actually had the chance to be the difference maker in terms of the offense in the first half. There was the play where I can't remember what time it was now, but there was a play where early in the half, I think the keeper gave it away, or anyways, he received the ball with the keeper way off his line.
Yes,
and he was both. It was like almost like unfortunate decision making. Which was followed by
the crowd were going shoot,
which was followed by poor technique, because his touch let him down, and I think because maybe he was in two minds: do I hit it first time? Do I control it? Really, he needed to just stop it and chip from distance, and instead he took this heavy touch that then totally the opportunity was gone. But that was at least I would call a half chance for us to take the lead. Then later, I think it was after that, later in the half, he had the chance at a through ball to Brek Shea.
Yeah, for me, that's the one that stands out as the worst.
Yeah, and again, the technique was a little bit off, and the precision was definitely off. And to me, you look at the half, and you're playing Dallas, who we'll talk about a little bit more later, but we had the chance to turn a not so great disjointed kind of half into something that could have been, we could have been on the front foot more than once. And they weren't like complete plays, but there were moments where had our ability, our technique been a little bit more on point, or our decision making being a little bit quicker, we could have easily have taken the lead.
I mean, the thing with Shani, but we'll talk about this now. Shani, for me, is a guy, and it's hard not to look at the ticket that he's on. I really try not to look at players' wages when you're forming opinions, because it means nothing in the grand scheme of things. But he's been brought in to make a difference to the team. And his first game he came on, it looked like it was great. The formation that they've played, it's allowed Laba to concentrate more on his defensive side of the game. But if Shani's going to be the guy in those positions, he has to be so much more clinical and so much more just better delivery all round. And Freddie Montero again was on an island for pretty much the whole half. And the half came to an end. There was no goals, and everyone at halftime that we were talking to was just saying what a dire first half it was. And it was kind of hard to imagine that it was going to kind of spring into life. But then 7 minutes in, the game completely changed because Maxi Urruti, fantastic piece of individual play, and we can talk about what led to that in a sec, but fantastic piece of individual play from the Argentine. Dispossessing Laba, running on goal, great finish. You can point fingers at a lot of guys, which I'm sure we'll do in a second, but for Urruti, that's what the Whitecaps are needing, a guy that can go and make that happen. And right now, apart from set pieces, we do not have a guy in open play that is making that kind of stuff happen.
But we talked about that. That's not the kind of striker we brought in. That's not who he is.
That's not what Freddie does. No.
Can we break down the goal? Is that okay?
Let's break it down the way that the Whitecaps were broken down for it.
Oh, okay. So if you want to talk about the stuff that happened before, I'm okay. But for me, with the moment Maxi Urruti, the moment he takes the ball from his fellow countryman Matthias Laba. Okay, so obviously Laba's going to be disappointed in that.
Poor first touch control by Laba when he had the ball initially anyway.
Right. So Urruti takes the ball and then chooses to go basically straight at goal, or the inside left channel towards goal. And then we see, so Laba's error or poor touch or whatever is kind of the initiating thing, that error on the play. Then what we had happen was as Urruti goes in the inside left channel, that's where AJ is playing center back for this game in place of Kendall Waston. He when you watched it the first time, I was like, why is he not challenging? Why is he not stepping up? So I watched it again a couple times or whatever, and I think what happened was AJ holds back because Tesho is making a run in the middle. And I think initially AJ had Tesho, or thought he had Tesho, and I think he thought, if I step up, Urruti's just going to play Tesho right through the middle. What he didn't know or didn't recognize or wasn't communicated to was that Parker was right there, and Parker was ready to pick up Tesho. And I think Parker either didn't say anything or didn't communicate, and so AJ holds back, gives Urruti space, he runs into it, and Osted is a little bit too near post, and he's a little bit unsighted by the shot, and it finds the corner. So I think there's two or three things there that we would probably love to see. I think that they're going to be looking on the tape and talking about, and we would obviously love to have seen it play out differently.
My thinking about AJ is that maybe on that play, because maybe he used to playing in the midfield. Maybe it's that he thought he had more time to make that break on him, and maybe that was the reason why.
So he actually, in his post game comments, he basically owned that he responded too slowly. He didn't mention Tesho, but he said basically I responded too slowly there, and that was why he gave Urruti more room than he would have liked to have.
Yeah. But it was a solid, like Michael was saying, a solid goal by Urruti, and he almost made it 2-0 with that volley, almost minutes later, and that would have been a backbreaker.
Yeah, I mean, if they'd gone 2 up at that point, there was no way back. And it was kind of, even with the 1 goal, it was a little bit hard to see how the Whitecaps were going to get back into it. But then on comes the shining light, the saviour of Canadian and Whitecaps soccer. He's only 16, in case you didn't know, the Alphonso Davies sub.
Quick, before you talk about that, the funny thing is we were talking about Chani earlier. You know Chani's having a bad game when Michael would rather have him come off instead of Tybert.
Yeah, because
he actually said that in the press box.
When the substitution was made, I was like, why are you leaving him on? Leave Tybert on. Tybert actually did look visibly upset at coming off.
Which is not a bad thing.
No, I'm not knocking him for that. It's I love
but
that passion.
He still shook the hands and whatever.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, so,
he didn't throw a strop like we've seen from Salgado and types over the years. But like, all joking aside about Davies, he was the difference maker for the Whitecaps. He came on, he added a spark. He
when he came on, he was central, right? He was in the center. He was more central than he usually is. Right, Steve?
Yeah, he was playing in a central position.
Which was nice to see. I know he doesn't have quite as much space there and time on the ball, but he definitely was a spark.
Yeah, I mean, he came on. He gave an impetus to the team. He was looking really good and bringing something that none of the other Whitecaps had brought. And right away, the team felt that they had a lift. And Christian Teixeira hadn't had a bad game. He was one of the better players in the first half. But it seemed to really help him raise his game. But as you said, Davies was playing in the middle. And there's been a lot of chat on Twitter today about, could this actually be the better position for him? Now, I like him out wide, and I was talking to Steve about this yesterday, because he's got less players to get past. But he can still get past players in the middle. I think he's got more scope to get goals out wide, but he's got a better ability to help set goals up if he is in the middle.
I think this latter is better. I think the way he pushes the ball up through the middle will help, especially if you have like a Bolaños and a Teixeira or Shea out wide.
Yeah,
will help pull people within, giving the outside more space.
Plus, if he's getting fouled in the middle, you're going to get free kicks in really good positions.
And because right now, I don't know how much the defenders respect the Whitecaps midfield for pushing the ball forward like a Chani or a thing. So if more people are going wide, you got more space outside, you get them outside, and you got more space in.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. And it's not uncommon for young, quick players to begin as being as wingers and move inside. I mean, you know, these are obviously players, world-class players who've done crazy things in the game, but you look at, Bastian Schweinsteiger, when he came up at Bayern, he was a wide midfielder.
Yeah.
He even played a little left back, but he eventually his skills were he moved into the middle and found a home for the latter half or 60% of his career as a central midfielder. And you see it with other attacking players, like even I'm not making a comparison to the skill or ability, but even Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, is to me he's always been a wide player that they've used his skills in central positions. Obviously, and I'm not making a comparison.
So yeah,
now that you said that,
Alfonso is the Canadian Christian Hawk.
Now that you said that, I want to make a comparison too. Just the way a couple of times when he was pushing the ball up, he reminded me of Paul Pogba. Just a couple of times, just the way he pushed the ball and from the the middle of the field up the field. It was just a couple times. And again, not comparing. Just like Zach said.
For me, I don't see any comparison between Ronaldo and Davies because I don't want to punch Alfonso in the face.
Hey, there's a statue at an airport you could vent that.
Well, that's already looked like it's been punched in the face.
I don't know. It's something about Ronaldo and Nani. They're just two players in the modern game that I really, really hate. I'm biased, though.
What did they do against Scotland?
Actually, it was club games against Scottish teams that I don't like Nani for his diving antics. Don't start me on Neymar for what he did against Scotland, but that's another player I can't stand. But we talked there about how Davies does play through the middle. If he gets brought down, it's going to give the Whitecaps some good free kick positions. And whether you feel it was a free kick or not, there's a little bit of debate about that. The Whitecaps did get a free kick.
And it was a bit of redemption because it was Matthias Labo, was it not?
I can't actually remember.
I'm pretty sure it was Matthias Laba who got.
I thought it was Teixeira.
I'm
that
sure
went
somebody
through.
on Twitter can remind us.
No,
of that.
it was. I'm pretty sure it was Laba, and he was going to head the ball, and he got called for. The call was for dangerous play. The foot being too high.
Too high. I do. Yeah, you're right. It is. It was Laba.
Yeah.
But then the free kick was given. Up steps the bug, and Bolaños would probably have taken it if he had been playing. But the bug, we've seen him hit these set pieces before.
Can I disagree with you on that? That one, I always like when you for a free kick you have more than one options over the ball. I think that's so much better for the goalkeeper's mind. Usually the goalkeeper will look for who placed it or whatever, that kind of thing. But I like when there's more options over the ball. And I think if Bolo was there, he would have been the number 2 option. However, that ball where it was set up for a left foot to go over to the near post.
Yeah, and he hit it perfectly. And it's great to see Teixeira back to his 25 form. And we've talked about it for all of last season. What happened to Teixeira last year? He was so good in that first year. 7 goals, 5 assists, I think it was. Last year, 2 goals and 2 assists. And already, we're just not even out of June, and he's got 4 goals and 2 assists for this team, and a missed penalty. So he could have had even more. But I asked Robbo this yesterday. I said, did the transfer of Mane give kind of Teixeira a kick up the ass? Which Robbo seemed to think I was swearing, but I don't see that as swearing. But it does seem to have...
It's anatomy.
Yeah, it does seem to have given him a little bit of impetus, and we're seeing a different Christian, and it's great to see that.
Yeah, it is, and he struck that ball so well too, and he used the people in the line like his own teammates, because he got that. I don't know how set up this was, but those teammates they basically screened the people in the box more than they screened the goalkeeper, because they didn't even jump when the ball came over to them, and then Gonzalez was like almost cemented to the floor. Yeah. He did not move at all. I don't know if that was lack of experience. But he was like, he's not even hopping around to get ready for the jump. The ball came over the line wall, then he started moving, but by then it was way too late.
And it gave the Whitecaps the tie with 16 minutes to go, and I felt they would go on and get the win, but the game kind of then fell into a bit of a lull, and towards the end, if any team was going to score, it was probably Dallas, and the Caps seemed happy just to settle for the points.
Barrios had a chance. Well, first off, in the first half, Barrios whiffed on probably the most clear-cut chance of the first half.
Yeah. But
in the second half, after the equalizer, he had a chance that they were shouting for a handball on Jordan Harvey.
Yeah, no, that wasn't a handball.
That was a fantastic block by Harvey.
Yeah. Harvey went in with his hands behind his back.
It was like 2 home games in a row with good blocks by Jordan.
I thought Diaz had a great chance too, but he just did not get it at all. He was wide open in the box.
Right. He was not happy with his effort.
A sharper Diaz, I think, would have probably buried that. So, last thing we'll talk about in this section, do you feel a draw was a fair result? And is it really a good result considering everything that has happened this week?
That's what I was going to say. Considering the week they had, I think they lost 3 starters. Another one of their starters, we'll talk about this later, came really late into the game. Not late into the game, they showed up late to the building. And I think it was a perfect result, considering I predicted it in the last show.
I think, when you look at it, there's a couple of things that I think that stand out as you said, a very, very difficult week for the football club. One was, I think, one of the standouts, was Jake Nowinski at right back. I think both defending and going forward, he had some really awesome moments, and that's not trying to overstate something in the light of this current situation.
I thought he went forward well, but a couple of people were saying to me that they didn't think he was that he needs to work on his defensive play, that he was maybe caught up the field a little bit. But that's what he brings. He's an attacking fullback, so you're going to get that.
And then the other person I think we want to touch on is AJ. And aside from, I think, him wanting to maybe have back his challenging or positioning on the goal we conceded, I thought he did a remarkable job in replacing Kendall Waston in the center of defense.
Solid. And Dean could be back soon, but for now it does look like it's going to be a case of Waston and Jacobson Parker and Jacobson moving forward as our starting centre-backs.
Yeah, Dean's probably only a week, maybe 2 away from being available.
I would say 2 tops. He's
still got to get into game shape.
Yeah, he's not playing in scrimmages yet. He's still doing training.
So maybe a week or 2 from playing for WFC2 and getting match fit.
Yeah. Last couple of little things to come out of that. It was a uncertain lineup, or for Robo, it was uncertain what the lineup was going to be. Pretty close to when they have to actually file their team sheets to the officials, because at training on Friday, when I went along, it was noticeable Shane Williams was absent, but then it was also noticeable that Brek Shea was absent as well. And he was at the hospital all day on Friday.
For good news.
For good news, yes. Not like every other Whitecaps player that's missing just now that's been at the hospital for bad news. But he was at the hospital all day on Friday and then on Saturday as well. And his wife, Carling, gave birth to a healthy baby boy, Zeppelin.
Brek Shea.
Yeah.
The same middle name as Brek.
4:40 on Saturday afternoon. Right away, he texted Robo, basically saying, the kid's here, I'll be with you in half an hour.
Yeah.
That is commitment.
This is pretty awesome.
But I mean, it just kind of shows how much he wants to play for this team. And obviously, after the game, Brek was quite keen just to get back to the hospital to be with wife and baby. But I have to say a big thanks to Mr. Nathan Vanstone, Mr. Whitecaps, I'm going to start calling him, I think.
That's a good name.
Yeah.
I think that's actually, I don't think there's anyone else I'd want to call that name.
No. So Nathan is Mr. Whitecaps, but he managed to grab a quick chat with Brek just about the baby and what his day had been like just before heading to the game. So let's hear what Brek had to say.
All right, Brek, obviously a whirlwind of a day. What did your day look like today?
Been in the hospital. Just hoping that the kid came before I had to leave for the game. And luckily it came within 30 minutes before I had to leave and be here. So great day to have my first son, second kid, and everything was healthy. And happy to be part of the game. Obviously I wanted to be here and be there at the same time, and so now I'm happy we got a point. The team fought hard against a good team. So excited for that and excited to go back and be in the hospital again all night.
I should maybe have prefaced that by saying it was a very noisy audio clip.
It sounds like sword fighting in there.
But yeah, Brek, the commitment that showed to me, a lot of people when they signed him, it's fair to say the jury was out. Some folk, they'd already made their opinions upon him from things that had happened in the past. But Robbo doesn't bring players in without good reason. And before anyone tweets us about Shane, he has no experience of doing something like this in the past. I'm pretty sure someone will tweet us that. But character is a big thing with Robbo, as is dressing room harmony, and he wouldn't have brought in Shea if he had any doubts about him at all. And the fact that he just was so keen to get out and play in this game and start in this game, to me shows great commitment to the club.
Yeah, and to his teammates, and builds that chemistry and builds that connection in the locker room. When you see your one of your teammates go above and beyond, it's a pretty awesome thing. And it's also great that he was able to be there for the birth of his child, the second child, and it sounds like everyone's healthy, and that's the most important thing. And so, yeah.
And obviously, it's another future Canadian international. We'll get Zeppelin capped pretty quick.
Naturally.
Yeah. So, if he hadn't have played, it was interesting. At training on Friday, they had Davies starting. So, we don't know, would that have made a difference or not? But he definitely would have left the bench pretty short. And on the bench, kind of forced into action in some ways. But he was ready to go because he played 60 minutes midweek in a scrimmage against the U18s. Bernie Abini made his debut. Really impossible to say too much about him because he didn't have a lot of time on the pitch to get things under his belt. But at least it's another healthy body for this stretch that's coming up now.
Well, he was welcomed to the league by our former player, Atiba Harris, quite nicely.
Oh, yeah. Like that tackle, you're thinking, okay then.
Well, at first glance, actually, I was kind of surprised the free kick was given. On second glance, Atiba's foot was a little over the ball and a little bit of the bottom of his boots showing. And
well, just before we finish talking about the Dallas game from the Whitecaps' point of view, talking of heavy tackles, there was the tackle on Teixeira in the box in the second half that really raised David Ousted's ire.
Yeah.
And first glance, I thought, no penalty, fair tackle. You see the replay and he gets the ball, but he does go right through into Teixeira. And it's one of those things, you've seen penalties given, you've not seen penalties given. It's maybe hard to be unbiased because it's against our team, but did you think quickly that it was a penalty?
Actually, I'm kind of the reverse than this, Michael. In the stadium, I thought for sure something was awry, and it didn't help. That it was it minor Figueroa, right? So that didn't help things.
I'm nodding, which helps for radio.
I'm pretty sure it was minor. So that didn't help.
Pretty major.
Yes, and that didn't help my perspective. I thought for sure it was I thought for sure 1, it was a foul. 2, I thought Christian's probably done in the match. But watching it on the replay, actually, I didn't think it was as heinous as I originally thought, and I don't think it was helped that it was Teixeira, who I think might be fair to say that
yes.
is known to go to ground easier than others, perhaps, and is from a culture where being clever in that way is valued. So I thought maybe some that might have played into things, and so I didn't feel as aggrieved afterwards watching it on my couch as I did in the stadium.
I didn't think it was too much of a foul, but I know for a fact that they do call those quite a bit, especially when you go through a player. Watching instant replay, usually Mondays, Simon Borg always mentions he went through the player.
Yeah.
And that's usually a penalty or a foul.
I did get to talk to the bug after, and he said, yes, it was a foul.
Yeah, the bug.
He's standing by it.
It's the first time I've actually spoken to him after the match, which we had the translator doing the interview, and he came out and he's holding his man of the match mug, and he had his matcha tea, and quite a lot for a little guy to carry. Just before we wrap up, then, any other things to say about the game? Anything you want to add, anyone?
No, I think it was, again, good result for the week they had, like we said, and Dallas is not, although Dallas have been, they started out great, eight straight games without a loss, but now only 1 win in their last 7. Still a very strong team to play.
And just read you a couple of tweets that we've got here just now. At Whitecap Scarf, he feels that the Caps, if Wasson is going to be out for 46 weeks, that they need to sign someone and bring somebody in. It's not going to be as easy as that because of the fact that the transfer window doesn't open for a couple of weeks, by which time Kendall is likely to be back. He's not named on the Costa Rican Gold Cup roster, so we're not going to lose him now in the summer like we thought. There is always the chance to sign Sam DeWitt or Francis De Vries as well. I also got a tweet from at Spiceboy1, and he makes a very good point that everyone points out Teixeira's 2016 shortcomings in MLS play. But we are kind of forgetting that he was exemplary in CCL play. He had his 5 goals, he was regularly in the team of the week, and yeah, he did save his best football for that, which for me kind of made it more frustrating as well that we weren't seeing that in his league performances.
I did read and hear a lot of perspective opposite to what you said earlier, Michael, in terms of a number of people I think felt that actually his contributions to the game were probably solely the goal. That his service into the box wasn't good. I heard some stats about our service into the box, which were startling.
Yeah, in general, the service wasn't very good, but he was hitting the byline and getting some.
He was getting the balls in. You
Yeah.
can't always blame the person crossing the ball. Sometimes you have to blame the runs, and the runs aren't in the right spots and everything like that. So I thought he delivered the ball well, but yeah, there was definitely no connection there. Brek Shea, on the other hand, obviously, it was a lack of sleep, maybe just high energy. His crosses into the box sailed over and didn't even hit the right spot. So he was actually more of the... But you don't expect that from him as much.
And Chris Corrigan at SailorC86 says, like Pogba, agreeing with you, Chris, Alfonso isn't afraid to carry the ball through the middle.
Someone also said something. He has way better hair than...
Yes.
Yeah.
Russell's looking better with his nice trimmed haircut, and he doesn't look like a werewolf anymore. So
I talked to him about this too. I thought he looked in the Canada game where it was all just like crazy and like it kind of fit with how he was playing out there in terms of very aggressive.
I didn't recognise him on the pitch at training on Friday when I was trying to work out who was in the team, and it's like, who's that? But anyway, we're agreeing it was a good result for the Whitecaps. Dallas were a little bit mixed. They kind of felt they should have got more out of the game. But Dallas's form just now, it's not been the best heading into this one. And in a lot of ways, this kind of point that they got might steady the ship a little bit, Steve.
Yeah, they were talking about that after the game, that they felt, you'll hear from Matt Hedges and Atiba, that they thought this was one of their better performances on the road. And Obviously, I think they were probably looking at the second half more than the first half because you can't really say that was a good performance. But second half, they did look very strong and very, especially on the attack.
And they started the season undefeated in 8, and then their last 7 games, they've just been on a really, really bad run.
1 win in the last 7.
One of the reasons that helped them at the beginning of the season to be in good form was that they had some of their league matches moved for the CONCACAF Champions League.
Which, of course, we did not. But I remember just a few weeks ago talking about how exciting it was going to be, the top of the table Texan clash, and how it was going to mean a lot between Houston and Dallas. Game's coming up this Friday, and now Dallas have kind of gone down the table a little bit. But Steve, you did get a chance to head into the Dallas locker room after the match. Spoke with Matt Hedges and former Whitecap Atiba Harris. So let's just hear from both of those now.
So first of all, your overall thoughts on the game and how it went for you guys?
I thought it was one of our best road performances all year. I thought we kept the ball well. We created some chances, and we really limited their chances. I thought maybe that free kick was one of their only quality chances. So I thought it was a good performance all around from us. I think we could have gone out with 3 points, but we got 1, so we'll take it.
You guys were unbeaten in your first 8 games. Now 1 win in the last 7. Do you feel like this game is the game to kind of get you guys back on track and get back to winning?
Yeah, I think it was. I think, we're very encouraged by our performance. We created chances. We just didn't finish them. But I think that we can build off of the performance today. And, going to Houston, I think we can do better than we did.
FC Dallas and Vancouver have had some heated matches in the past. There's some players that have moved on and some players are still here. Do you think it's still a heated rivalry between the two, or is it just goals as per game?
Maybe not as much as before. I feel like it doesn't have that same feeling, but it's kind of just go as game. It's still the fans don't like us. You can tell. It's pretty obvious, but on the field, it's not as much as it used to be.
And you guys are obviously playing next week against Houston on Friday, national game. Is that this is kind of a warm up for that, and how would you expect it there? Yeah,
I think it's definitely a warm up. On the road, we needed to get our formation down of how we're going to play in Houston. And I think today was a good help for that, and I think it was positive the way we kept the ball today. I think we can do that in Houston. We'll get points.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
First of all, your overall thoughts on the game and how it went?
I think, obviously we came in, we scored, and then we gave up the late goal, but we wanted to get 3 points. A little bit disappointed we didn't get it. I think we're organized for pretty much a whole game, except it was unlucky that we gave up the set piece, and it was a great goal by Teixeira. So, congratulations to him and Vancouver.
You guys were unbeaten in the first 8 games, and now 1 win in the last 7. Do you feel like this game is the game to kind of get you guys back on track going into Houston next week?
I think, it's a long season, and you're going to have ups and downs. We would like to win every game, but we can't do it. But we still going to stick to our principles and try to achieve our goals. At the end of the year, which is try to win championships.
FC Dallas and Vancouver kind of had a heated rivalry from game to game. There's some new players, some old players. Do you think the heat rivalry is still there, or is it lessened a little bit?
I think
it seems like it got heated there on the field a little bit or something.
I think you can see it a little bit, but obviously over the past couple of years, you've seen you had guys with bigger personalities. They're not around at the moment, so I think kind of died down a little bit, but overall I think it's still there, especially amongst the supporters.
Now, there's been a story that you're possibly going to be starting your own club team back in your homeland of St Kitts and Nevis. How is that going? Is it a difficult task to get that started up, or?
I think right now I'm still a player, so it's kind of difficult to dedicate 100% towards it. I have people over there working and trying to get it all sorted out, along with Aaron as well. He's part of it, and hopefully in the next couple of years, especially we can get it up and running. And especially with I have friends here in Canada and stuff who I mean, obviously I have those CPL about to start, so hopefully we can have partnerships and all that, so we can help move players, young players from over there, bring them up here and get them the experience and exposure.
How important is it to have for even like a small country like yours, or like a big country like Canada, like what, you know, in size and everything? How important is it to have a national league where you can develop your own players for the national team?
It's important because I mean, the ultimate goal is to have like the best players playing in the top league and getting minutes, especially like locally. You want those young players who are not going to be able to go to a bigger club and play instantly. They can get games in and help groom their talent.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Have a good one, man.
Thanks.
FC Dallas's Matt Hedges and Atiba Harris there. Atiba, obviously a former Whitecaps player, and we talked a little bit to him there about a venture which he has been working on for the last couple of years. He's going to be launching his own football team in St Kitts and Nevis called Atiba Harris FC. They're trying to get a domestic league set up there, just like we are in Canada, and wish him all the best in that. One of the AFTN crew, Aaron Campbell, has a little bit of involvement in that as well. And good luck to Atiba with that.
Atiba is an individual who understands the value of giving back, and I think that's what he longs to do, give back to the football community that helped give him his chance, and also to create pathways. And you heard there talking about, hey, maybe one day this club will have relationships with Canadian CPL teams, and it's pretty cool.
And the draw on Saturday kept Dallas in 4th place in the West. The Whitecaps holding on to 5th spot. They're 7 points off first place Sporting Kansas City just now, but they do have 3 games in hand. And it's a crazy situation with this team just now. I was talking to Martin McMahon about this yesterday at the game. You watch their performances this year, and no hyperbole, this is a team that could go all the way to the MLS Cup. They've got the quality, they grind out results, they fight back. Equally though, this is also a team that might not even make the playoffs. You've just no way of knowing what's going to happen with this team as the season goes on.
And it's like we said before, I think it's a lot to do with injuries, how injuries play out. It also, like every other season, it's about making the playoffs, and anything can happen once you get there. You could get on a big hot streak. So you're right that if they make the playoffs, they can go on a run and beat anybody nobody in the Western Conference really scares you.
No,
there's nobody that's you could say Portland a little bit, but Portland has had their drop-offs too here and there.
Everyone's been up and down, and
it seems the Eastern Conference is much stronger this year.
I mean, right now, Seattle and LA are sitting out of the playoff places, and you kind of do feel that they're both likely to be in the playoffs come the end of the season. But I mean, Steve, you worked out that if every team was to win their game in hand, which is obviously impossible, but if every team was to, the Whitecaps would sit second.
And Dallas would be first.
It's been a weird year for Dallas, right? So Diaz obviously coming back from injury. They had Morales, brought in Morales to help fill that gap. And you're right. I think they're less fearsome than they were last year. I think people aren't as anxious about playing them. Which is interesting because it has kind of opened things up a little bit more in the West, and we've seen a lot more Western teams drop points to Eastern teams. It feels like there's a little bit more balance between the two conferences than there has been in the past, and obviously that's a Western biased perspective. But it will be interesting to see, because when you listen to Atiba, you listen to Hedges talk, they're focused on winning trophies, and they have a taste for it, and they have a bit of a recent culture for it, and I think they're longing to lift an MLS Cup as quickly as possible.
And as we mentioned, they've got a tough derby coming up against Houston on Friday night. The Whitecaps head on the road for this weekend. They're going to be heading to Minnesota. That means they get to square off against Maris Rovda. But Minnesota, it looked like they were going to be the absolute whipping boys of the league the way that they started the season. Horrendous start to the season. They have kind of picked it up a little bit. Still not in great form, sitting bottom of the West just now. And it's one of those banana skins games. talked about it so many times, the Whitecaps seem to raise their game against the top teams in the West. Then when they play the bottom dwellers, it seems to kind of drag them down to their level a little bit.
Yeah, you hope it's not a match where we play at their level, and we're going as the obviously we're on the road, we're the away team, and we have I think when we look back on our most recent road trip in the league, I think we are coming from a place where we are ready to put in a performance that can get us a result, and so really looking forward to the players, the squad coming together and really battling in Minnesota for a point or ideally 3.
You don't really know what you're getting with Minnesota, as I said. It's the whole Forrest Gump box of chocolates kind of team.
But they are pretty solid at home. They have won, I think, half their games or so. I know it's 4 wins. I can't remember how many games they've played. But a decent team at home, not very good on the road, obviously, although amazingly, they drew Houston 2-2 in Houston, so that was surprising. But other than that, yeah, not too much known about them.
I mean, on this season, they've only got 4 wins, and they are playing better at home.
Yeah.
You also have to wonder as well, though, about the Marius Rovda effect. Will he be so up for his team? I mean, we gave him a lot of stick, Whitecaps Twitter, about the start of the season his goalkeepers had when the goalkeepers were leaking goals left, right and centre, but they have kind of shored that up a little bit. Looking at the Caps' point of view, what do you think the Caps team's going to look like? I think it's almost certain we're still going to stick with the 4-1-4-1. It's just what personnel is going to fit in there. Do you expect to see the same starting lineup that we saw against Dallas on Saturday? Or maybe a few little tweaks here and there.
Unless there's a miracle and Waston's able to come back, I basically see the same starting 11. I might think that maybe Davies gets in there somewhere, but I'm not sure about that, especially on the road.
Waston does believe in miracles, so
yeah. He didn't look too rough after the game down there.
He doesn't know the English word for the thing that's wrong with him, though, because is it a hip flexor? I can't say the word in English. No, he that would be amazing if Kendall were be able to return. I think one of the things this week, it's a life thing, but yeah, you talk about Dane Brek Shea has had his second kid, so. What's his involvement? Is his involvement going to be full this week? And how are sleeping patterns going to be changed? Because, that's a part of life of being a parent. I can't see them going away from the 4-1-4-1 as you suggested, Michael. It'll just be kind of who kind of fits in where.
I think we're probably going to have a team as well that they're going to sit back, they're going to try and soak up the pressure, hitting the counter-attack, your typical Vancouver away performance. I'd be amazed if it isn't the same starting lineup that we saw at the weekend, and also probably the same couple of first 2 subs anyway, Abini and Davies as well. And then they were going to bring Rosales on, just I think to kind of see the game out on Saturday. But you'd hope maybe if they need another attacking sub, they might have a few more attacking options on the bench. I was a little disappointed that they sent Kyle Gregg down to play with the USL team, just because you need to have more attacking options on the bench, I think, than we did.
Yeah, am I crazy? Was Marco not on the bench?
Bustos, yeah. Busty was on the bench. And we thought they would maybe bring Busty on instead of Rosales. And that's the kind of game, if you're going to bring Bustos on, that was the kind of game I feel to bring him on in. And he could possibly have made a difference.
I think the one reason they might not have brought him in was because Davies was already playing centrally and they didn't want Bustos and Davies on there on the same pitch at the same time. But I don't have a problem with it personally. I think it would have been exciting to see what was going on.
One most likely would have gone wide, though.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it is interesting, talking about, formations. It is interesting that we're not, and I know there was talk about this in post-game and stuff, but it is interesting that we're not playing Shea up front in a 2, that he's still been out wide. Because we talked about the island before, and we need our central striker to not be stuck on an island.
Yeah, but I think they like the 4-1-4-1, and it's working for them. So I don't see them deviating from it. I think if they get into a losing streak, maybe they might change a little something there. But I don't see it changing at all at this point.
And there's a couple of dangerous Minnesota players to watch out for. Leading the way on 8 goals, Christian Ramirez, their forward.
I think he's a designated player. I'm assuming.
2 game-winning goals as well he's got. And then Kevin Molino is in at 5 goals as well. When you look at the Whitecaps, Montero leads the way in 5, Teixeira's next on 4. So we're critical of maybe how Minnesota's played, but their top 2 guys have kind of scored more goals than
even when they
Caps.
Even when they were leaking goals in early in the season, they were never getting shut out. Really, from what I remember.
They always seem to at least get 1
or 2 goals every game. So.
And then your assist leaders. I mean, you've got Venegas, you've got Ibsen, you've got Molino, all in 3, and then there's a string of others underneath them. So the assists are coming from a lot of different places as well. It's a defence though that is ripe for the picking. But with the kind of lineup that the Whitecaps are playing, I'm just a little bit sceptical as to whether they'll do it. What's your predictions then heading into the game?
Yeah, I'm looking for the Whitecaps to win this game, and I'm looking for it to be something like 2-1, maybe like 3-2.
I got. I'm going to go 3-1 Whitecaps.
And I do want to say that I love to see Marius and Mark Watson win every other game, just not the 2.
Oh yes,
the 2 we have this year.
I'm going to go for a pretty boring 1-0 win for the Whitecaps. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game. No Picasso, to use Colin Elms' words from the TSS game on Friday night. Love speaking to Colin Elms after the TSS games. He is so refreshing. The quotes that he gave me on Friday. No Picasso, they played like a bunch of 5-year-olds. It was Keystone Cops in the defence. That's what you need, a bit of honesty. If Marius Rovda ever becomes a head coach, he's going to give fantastic post-game interviews.
Yeah, Marius is very appreciated amongst supporters in Vancouver, and it's not without reason. He took stands for supporters, and they'll never be forgotten for that.
So the MLS team back in action on Saturday. WFC2 also in action on Saturday afternoon. They're at home. Nice to come back to that. During the week, though, the Whitecaps Residency are going to be action, and some good Residency news to talk about in this section. Both the under-18s and the under-16s are heading back to the playoffs. Both won their divisions again in the USSDA, and it's a tough battle ahead for both teams in the playoffs. The under-18s, they're seeded 10th. Although they won their conference, they did have quite a few losses on the year, and that has seen them falling into the 10th seeding, which means they're in the second pot of teams.
Yeah.
They're facing RSL, who they have played and lost against already this year, and they're seeded 4th overall, so that's a dangerous one. Only the group winners advance into the knockout stages. They also then play the 12th placed Columbus Crew Academy, so 2 highly ranked MLS academies in there, and then a low wildcard team in Dallas Texans. But a tough group for the 18s this time around.
But they are bringing a lot of players that might not have played, like the WFC2 players.
Which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, and so I think they will be a strong team. But I think they've always had tough groups in the past, especially a couple times when they grouped them and then they regrouped them.
This is a rare draw that's the same teams that came out the pot.
Clearly, USSDA did a good job on getting into the tough group right off the bat instead of doing it again.
They know it's a tough one for them to get through. They're like, let's leave it this time. The under-16s as well, they're actually seeded 8th, so they're one of the top seeds. And they're in an all-MLS academy group. They're playing LA, who are seeded 15th, 19th seeded Philadelphia Union, and the 26th seeded Houston Dynamo. I'm a little bit more confident of the 16s going through just because they've done well. They seem to raise their game as well when they're playing against MLS academies. Yeah. And the 18s, 2 big games obviously is the Crew and the RSL, and the RSL one for me is the big A. If they can win that, I'm pretty confident they're going to go through.
The thing is about these rankings is none of these, except for a few examples, like you said, RSL playing Whitecaps, you don't get. This is almost like a Champions League. You don't know how strong the other leagues are.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Some teams have been the top seed and then crashed out in the group stages because they were just in an easy group or whatever, easy conference or whatever. So I think it's hard to judge, and hopefully they're able to bring their top game into this and take it over.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things about this is kind of what's going on with their coaching staff for this game. They Niall Thompson,
who took over from Rich Fagan. When Rich Fagan got the WFC2 job, Niall Thompson took over from him. And he's in Europe doing... He's away doing his UEFA A. Right. So Pa Modou Kah is going to be overseeing the side, the U18 side, for this first part of the playoffs. He'll be leading them. James Merriman is going to be his assistant.
That's what I was going to ask, because I have a feeling that Pa might not be on the sidelines too much sometimes, depending on how the referees are going.
He is very vocal and very passionate as well. Yeah. I got a chance to speak to Pa during the week, so we'll play that for you now. So first thing to ask you, Pa, is it's been nearly a year since you've got into coaching. How have you enjoyed your experience with it all so far?
It's been superb, to be fair to you. I've really enjoyed myself. You know, it's not the same as playing, but nothing will ever equal that. But this is the second best thing, and I'm loving every second of it. And it's challenging, and which I love. So it's been great to me.
And you've been involved with the club at all age groups and coaching. You've been in the first team coaching and WFC2 last season and this, and now with the Residency. Do you enjoy all of it, or is there any aspect of it that you enjoy more than the others?
No, for me, I enjoy everything, because you get to see different aspect of how is it to be with the residencies, what kind of things that goes through, all the things that a coach needs to do for these players. And then you with the USL, you see a different environment, and you with the first team, you see a different environment. Of course, first team is the highest one, and being a player for 20 years and have the opportunity to work on the Robo, you know, as a player and now as a staff, you know, the experience that I've gained, you know, working with him has been very valuable for me. That after I stopped playing, to be able to work with the Residency, the USL, and like, if you know my personality, you know that I'm a guy that works hard but love also as well to know people. I'm not shy for the dirty work, you know. But so for me, it's been splendid, you know, and also seeing Robert Earnshaw, who's also been with the 14s, and James Merriman, all this. So you go down with all the other coaches. Niall Thompson, who's been great to me when with him, working with him as an 18s coach, has been very good to me. So all the stuff, you take it, and the experience that you gain from it is superb.
Now, Niall's going to be away next week during the playoffs. It's yourself and James that's taking the team down to Indiana. What are you expecting from that? It's your first experience of playoffs, or did you go down with the team last year? It's your first, right?
This is my first time ever taking the team down for the playoffs. And, you know, like I have a motto that says pressure is a privilege. So I live by that every single day, and for me it's a new thing. You get to see how it works, and the players that we have, the under 18s, I believe that they have enough quality, you know, to do something great, you know, great things for these clubs. And they went to the final last year, so, you know, but that's last year. This year is this year, you know, so eyes open. I'm taking them with the help of Niall, you know, who's away, but me and him will still communicate on daily basis what is happening in and around the players and things. And I know he will be sitting on his phone maybe, or waiting for me to send him a text of how the game went and stuff like that. So it's going to be good. I have James Merriman, who's been a residency coach now, who knows every player in the residency, same as Reagan Hall, who's going with me as a goalkeeper coach. So like, the help around me is good, so now it's doing everything that is best for the players so they can perform.
And just the last thing, it's a tough group this time. The Caps are seeded 10th, and then you've got 4th placed RSL, and then you've got 12th placed other MSL Academy as well in the Crew. Does having a stronger group like that, it'll help you raise your game? Because in the past, the games where the Residency have struggled, it's been against the non-MLS academies, but they seem to raise their game more when it is the other MLS academies that they play.
That's a natural thing in being a professional. They have nothing to do, but that's the thing that separates the tops, the world top players, or the average players, because the top players, they're always ready for it no matter what the game is. And when you're talking about average players, what do? They only raise their game at a certain level. But for us, that's not been a problem. We are going there to raise our level. Whether we play against MLS academy or normal academy, it doesn't matter to us, because we have RSL, we have Dallas Texans and we have Columbus Crew. So the thing is, you have to win to go through. So the only thing that we care about is coming in and doing what is in our DNA and our work rate and give what we have to give. And hopefully, you never know, because the ball is round. So when the game starts, everything is difficult on paper or easy on paper, but you still got to play that 90 minutes.
That's great. Thank you so much, Pa, and good luck next week.
Pa Modou Kah there talking about his transition into coaching and the Residency playoffs that are coming up this week. And he mentioned there Robert Earnshaw is also going to be going down with the team. So a lot of good experience heading down with these guys. When it gets to the pressure situations, these are guys that have done it at international level. And something great for the players to turn to.
One of the things about Pa Modou Kah, I can't remember if we talked about it on the show in the past, but I haven't watched him with any of the Residency teams or setup. But when you watch him around the first team, one of the things I really love about what he's done and how it's just how he carries himself. Like he is not just like professional, like he's at work, but the dude works hard. The dude doesn't like he isn't like, yeah, I was an international, I scored, go look at the views on my YouTube goal and all. Like the dude works hard. He there's no job that's too small.
He's very humble and he wants to give back and share his experiences, which is fantastic.
It's like he gets it. It's like he understands that he's starting a different thing, and now he's at the, for lack of a better term, he's on the bottom rung, and he's working his way up, and he knows I'm going to put in the hard. Like it's really impressive. Now, it's been impressive for me to watch.
Now, if he can lead him to the title,
yes.
I'm disappointed that you didn't ask if he's going to ride a Segway afterwards. Or whatever they call that thing.
The thing is as well, I mean, there could even be a coaching role up for grabs because we don't know. Niall was just put in charge of the team to the end of the season and then they're going to kind of review everything with Rich moving on. It might be, in the past, Niall's got a very busy job away from football. Yeah. He might decide that he's happy just to be the assistant. He doesn't want the full-time job. So it's a chance here, if Pa does well, to move into this role fully. And he mentioned there he's going to be on the phone to Niall during the week as well. I'm pretty sure Rich Fagan will help him out. And Rich Fagan's certainly going to help him out because it looks like the Caps are going to get a number of the USL signed Residency eligible players to head down there. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Baldy brothers, Terran Campbell.
Scored last weekend.
Yeah, great goal. Ben McKendry cross, Campbell finishes, puts WFC2 in the lead against Sacramento. Couldn't hold on, lost 2-1, but he had a good game. Glory Amanda as well. Really wouldn't be surprised to see him down there. He's played a lot with the Residency this year, got a lot of goals. He's in form, and he's the kind of guy that you want down there because he could be a difference maker.
And if only they can adjust a couple of maybe other date of births and everything like that, birth certificates. Maybe they get David Nomer Jr. there or something.
Alfonso's still eligible, so let's get him down there.
I was going to ask about that.
But I had a chance to ask Rich Fagan just about his thoughts on how well the team had done this year because he was with them up until February, and just a little bit about the team and what's coming up with the playoffs to come.
What do you see with this under-18 team? Is this as good a team as like you've had like the last couple of years, or is this an even better one?
Yeah, I think there's more balance in this team going into the playoffs. I mean, we've always had good teams, but we've sometimes been a little bit reliant on special players. I think there's probably more players of those type of qualities going into this playoffs, and they'll get support from me and some players from the USL team to go down and make a difference. So we're going to do everything we can. I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces between the first team needs and my own needs here, but we're going to do everything we can to support them and send them with as strong a team as possible.
And Rich Fagan talking about trying to support the team there. I mean, it still rankles us. We were talking about this on Wednesday at training, Zach. It rankles me a little bit that we didn't have our strongest team possible in last year's championship game.
Yeah, that was really frustrating.
Last year was a prime opportunity to win something.
They didn't put Alfonso there, and I think the older of the Baldissimo brothers went with WFC2 and sat on the bench.
Yeah.
And it was pain. Yeah.
It's frustrating because if you can land a national championship, what it does for your program in attracting players. I mean, I know they've got these great academies all across Canada now, but if you've got a kid that's maybe a little bit torn, does he want to go into the TFC Academy? Does he want to go into the Whitecaps one? And then you say, well, we've just won a national championship. It's a great selling point.
Technically, there's
not really a choice.
It's not a choice. You don't have a choice.
Or, yeah.
Territory.
Technically, yes.
Yeah. You're right, and it does something for the program, but it also within the club it creates the culture of winning that everybody wants.
Yeah, and we will be kicking off our 5th annual Residency week. In fact, we're kind of kicking it off with this show having Pa Modou Kah on it, but we're kicking it off on Monday on AFTN. We're going to bring you news and recaps of the under-18s and under-16 games this week at the playoffs. Also got a couple of good interviews coming up with Nick Apostle and Thomas Hassel, and a lot more besides, including our much looked forward to Ones to Watch. That's Steve's great thing that he does for us every year.
Once a year.
So watch out for that on AFTN.ca this week, and we'll be back with more chat after this.
I'm at WKRP in Cincinnati.
Don't get confused, everybody. You're not listening to WKRP in Cincinnati. You're listening to CITR in Vancouver. We won't be throwing turkeys out windows.
No.
But you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, broadcasting from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of British Columbia. This show is brought to you in conjunction with bcsoccerweb.com, your one-stop site for all your local, national and international news and links. Now, you might be wondering why we played that WKRP in Cincinnati tune.
And it's not because it's one of my favourite sitcoms in the 80s.
It's because it's awesome. That's why we played it.
It taught me about neutrons and protons.
I used to watch it all the time, but on reruns. But I love it. I actually need to get the box set of that.
I never watched it, but I remember seeing it on TV. It was just not something I never got into.
When I talk about protons and neutrons, like Venus Flytraps lesson of that actually taught me more than the teachers did initially.
There was a good UK comedy, the Kit Curran radio show, that was they tried to do something similar, which I loved as well. That ran for 2 seasons. Anyway, we are digressing. But the reason we played that is it was a big week for FC Cincinnati, pulling off a fantastic cup shock in the US Open Cup. And
the Battle of Ohio.
I don't know if I use the term shock.
USL against MLS, you kind of have to say shock.
No,
it was a strong Columbus team that was out there.
It was maybe an underdog win, but it was not
a Kakuta Mane-led Columbus team.
I'm still going with giant killing. Anyway, they
was Kakuta on the pitch?
No, he's in a
boot. He's in a boot. Oh yeah. I don't think we're going to get that first round pick.
He's out in a boot.
He's out in a boot.
I don't think we're going to get that first round pick, that conditional one. I think that's done.
I think we can probably kiss the sell-on fee a little bit goodbye as well.
Sad.
Great win for FC Cincinnati. They're doing some fantastic things out there. But the US Open Cup in general I wrote an article about it this week. It's what the Canadian Championship needs to be. It needs to be open to more teams. Allow the PDL teams in. Allow all the League One teams in if they want
VMSL.
to be in it. VMSL, Fraser Valley, Richmond Summer League. Do you not agree, though, that the Canadian Championship does need to get opened up to more teams? I know it's expanding next year,
it is expanding.
But it's not enough.
It is It's expanding, but we don't fully know the format or anything like that.
No, we know it's going to be the League One champions in Ontario and the Quebecy boys. Mm-hmm. They're going to be in as well.
The team from I can't remember the letters, but
I can't remember the name of the league.
The Q League.
But a great win for FC Cincinnati. 1-0 over Columbus Clue. 1-0 over Columbus Crew.
That was like a Freudian slip there.
They didn't have a clue. That was part of the problem. On Wednesday night. And of course, FC Cincinnati now is run by friend of the show, Alan Koch, former Whitecaps 2 head coach, former SFU Clan head coach, and he was cock-a-hoop about that victory. So I got a chance to speak to him during the week. So let's hear now from Alan Koch.
And we call this land South Africa, the Cape of Hope to the Northern Star, but the hope and peace will never be part of Johannesburg.
We're joined now by Alan Koch, the former head coach of WFC2, now head coach of FC Cincinnati. Good to speak to you again, Alan.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Nice to get you.
And we'll get this out of the way right away. Fantastic win on Wednesday night for FC Cincinnati against Columbus Crew. With everything that you've been through in your managerial career, would you look at that as being probably the biggest win that you've had so far?
I don't know. I've been asked that by a couple of people since the game. I think in terms of the crowd we played in front of, definitely. Playing in front of 30,000 fans was pretty special, and I think we're very, very lucky here in Cincinnati. We normally play in front of 20 fans for most of our league games, but obviously 30,000 was very, very special. If I was to compare it, I loved my time at SFU, and going to back-to-back Final Fours was obviously an amazing experience, and to do that with the only Canadian team in the NCAA was very, very special, and I'll always cherish that. But then what we built with Whitecaps too over the last few years, and culminating obviously with taking such a young group to the Western Conference Final was amazing too. So it's difficult to compare all of them. But in terms of the actual crowd was there, this was definitely by far the most impressive.
Yeah, it was an amazing atmosphere. Watched the stream last night, and I mean, I've seen a lot of the Cincinnati games, and it just seems an amazing venue, and it seems to be a true soccer city, which I think has probably surprised a lot of people.
It's unbelievable, to be honest, having come here from Vancouver and come from the Whitecaps, where I think we have a great football culture in Vancouver, and obviously the Whitecaps have been around as a club for many, many years. To come join a professional soccer club that's in its second year of existence and see what's happening in the city is mind-blowing. Everywhere you go, people in the city are full embrace of the club. And it says a lot about the people of Cincinnati. People here are coming together to support causes, and they've obviously jumped together to come support this club, and we're having a lot of fun together along this journey.
The closing minutes of the game against Columbus, in stoppage time, where they had that two chances, the one with John and the one with Higuain, what was going through your mind at that point?
Hang on. No, it was, I think the one where they slipped behind the back four. I can't remember who it was who lunged at that one.
I think that was John.
There were fans literally right behind our bench, and they were like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. Oh my God, that was pretty darn close." But yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking. But I kind of go into almost a bit of a numb state in the last 10, 15 minutes of games where you're just focusing on what you have to do. I don't really get caught up into too much of the emotion. You're waiting for that final whistle, of course, but there's no point in getting too excited because anything can happen.
And just to go back a little bit then, when it was announced in December that you were leaving Whitecaps to head to Cincinnati, it came as a surprise for a lot of people, but it was obvious, at least to me, that you were going to a very ambitious club, and I've known you for years, and you're a very ambitious person. What was behind your thinking initially of going there? Because initially it was as an assistant coach and director of scouting.
It was twofold. I obviously analysed, as a coach, you analyse things to depth, and obviously in my own personal career, I have to analyse things and reflect and make sure we're heading in the right direction, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time. The Whitecaps, obviously, helping Carl in the first team with the draft was a lot of fun. But then I really felt in the 2 years with Whitecaps too, we took a project upon ourselves and really squeezed everything we could out of that group, and it culminated with us making a conference final with such a young group, and then having 4 of those players push on and sign first-team deals was amazing. I was incredibly proud of the guys. So it almost felt like we kind of got to the end of that project, and you never really get to the end in this business because there's always something more you could do. But I was open to other opportunities, and I think the success we had there, a lot of people came forth and were interested. But I came out to Cincinnati and came and looked at the club, came to the stadium, looked at the club, where they want to go moving into the MLS, and there are amazing ambitions here with this club and some fantastic people that are working for the club, and I was fully excited about coming here and wearing multiple hats to start off with. But then obviously in preseason the club made a change, and I was thrust into the head coach position, which thankfully I've been a head coach a lot in my career. Had to jump into the position, and we've dealt with some adversity. We've been up and down, and I think we're 8th in the table right now, but there's a lot of congestion in the Eastern Conference. So we've had some great results, and then we've had some disappointing moments too, but we're definitely building something, and I've been asked to come in and build something on the pitch, but also help the club build its infrastructure as it grows, and we're definitely working very, very hard on both fronts.
And The second year you had with the Whitecaps in particular, the turnaround in the team, we spoke a lot about it last season. I mean, when you look at the run that you had with SFU to the Final Four and then the run with this team to the conference final, is it hard to say which one gave you the most pleasure?
It's very, very difficult. Yeah, it's so hard to compare. They were both amazing experiences. Those were experiences where you had a certain amount of resources. You brought players in you thought you could work with and you believed in, and you squeezed every single thing you could out of those players. And I was very, very fortunate to work with some amazing players at SFU and with the Whitecaps. They were not only great players, but great people too. And I think we all worked very, very hard together to put the right culture in place at both teams. And I think that's a big part of why we had success in both places.
Talking of resources, you're now at a club that I guess it's a unique position for you, really, because with SFU and with the Caps, you weren't really given a budget to go out and like make transfer deals and stuff like that. Have you found that refreshing, or have you found it challenging?
It's been fun. It's interesting. We don't have the biggest budget in the league by any means, but we have a decent sized budget by USL standards. Obviously, coming in as the assistant initially, and only made the change in February. So when you get thrust into a head coaching position that late, you really are contractually bound to the players that you have in the group. And thankfully, we have a lot of good talented players. But like any coach, we all have our own personal styles and what types of players that we like to work with. So it's definitely a work in progress. We're embracing working with the group and trying to get the most out of every player. But there are changes that we know we need to make. We've made a few as we move forward, and there's obviously changes we'd still like to make. But it takes time to implement the style that you'd like to play and make sure you have the players that fit that system. So we're heading in the right direction, but it is going to take some time to get exactly where we know we need to want to go.
Yeah, when you took the job on, I thought it's so similar in a way to you taking on the Whitecaps too, because you're going into a role really late, just before the season started. So you've not really had a chance to stamp your own authority on the team yet. And as you say, it's been a mixed start to the year league-wise, but with a game like the Columbus win, is that something that you see as possibly turning the corner now and just giving this team a lot more belief?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something we spoke about with our group already and said, we can use this as a catalyst. We have absolute belief we can beat anybody. If you can go beat the Columbus crew, an MLS team that played all of their top players, they played their big-time players against us.
Yeah.
And you can go out and get a result like we did. Well, then we should believe in ourselves and have confidence that we can get results in every USL game we play. So it's definitely something that we'll use as a group to feed off and channel our energies in a positive way to hopefully start to put a string of victories together in place. We went to one good run a few weeks ago. We won 4 games in a row, but we need to get back to that sort of form back in league play. I think the challenge when you have a great cup run is now trying to manage fixture congestion.
Yeah.
We have a decent-sized group, but to play all these top teams in the cup and then balancing it with really important league games is not that easy. But no, it's a challenge we'll gladly embrace. We get to host the Chicago Fire in the next round, and hopefully we'll see Mr. Schweinsteiger on our pitch. Yeah,
that must be quite a surreal experience to go from playing with a lot of young guys and then you're facing these top teams. I mean, the USL actually in the East, the last 2 seasons from watching it, it did seem that the Eastern Conference, it was a much stronger conference, and there's a lot of standalone teams in there. Have you noticed a difference in quality between, say, the last 2 seasons in the West and what you're facing now?
I hate to say it, and I can only speak about this year, but the Eastern Conference this year is far more challenging and far more difficult week in and week out than the Western Conference was in the last 2 years. And I think there's less 2 teams in the East. There's more standalone teams, so then every club in the league has the pressure to go out and win and try to get 3 points in every game, where obviously 2 teams have different mandates. Some are there purely to develop. Some of them, as we've seen, are trying to win games, and then some are trying to be a bit of a hybrid of both avenues. But in the East, because you play more standalone teams, it definitely is more challenging week in and week out from that perspective.
And of course, the big thing hanging over the club just now is the possibility of an MLS team. And the stadium things came out this week with the one in Newport seeming to be the one that the club favoured. I mean, they looked amazing renderings. Just what's your thoughts on what you've seen of the potential stadium?
The stadium's unbelievable. I've even seen more pictures and more details, and that's been exposed to the public, and it's state of the art. It's an unbelievable place to go play football. So hopefully that will come to fruition. I think in terms of sites, I have to be quite non-political from that perspective, because everyone in this community has different perspectives. The one in Newport is over the river, so it's not technically in Cincinnati. But I think from a coaching perspective, at the end of the day, the most important thing for Cincinnati is to get into MLS. And to be quite frank, it's really not that important where they put the stadium, as long as it's in the greater Cincinnati area, and this club can push on to the MLS.
Yeah, I mean, just the last couple of things. The MLS thing, it looks a club that's ready for MLS. I mean, we saw that with Sacramento out here in the West. They're a club that should be in MLS with what they're doing. Cincinnati's the same. Does it feel like you're kind of just biding your time until you get into there? And is it hard to put all the chat of MLS to the back burner and just focus on the day job in USL?
It's not that challenging. I think our players and our coaches and all our staff that work with the team day in and day out are very, very aware that we're a USL club right now, and we're focusing on what we have to do. But in all of our roles, mine included, we do have work that we have to put in terms of the process and in terms of getting us into the MLS. So we're definitely aware of it, and we have work to do with it. But our focus has to be on where we are right now. And I personally have a lot of respect, obviously, for the USL, having coached them for the last few years. So we're embracing all the challenges where we are right now. I think we know where we'd like to go as a club. And having just come from the Whitecaps in the MLS, in so many different ways, this club here, FC Cincinnati, is so ready for the MLS. How the fans get behind this club and how people within the organization are working on things, it's been very, very impressive in the last few months.
What would you say has been your biggest challenge then coming into this role? Like as head coach, not so much when you initially went there. What's been the biggest challenge that you think you've faced so far?
It's interesting because the job here is very similar to what I was doing at the Whitecaps, other than here you're the sole decision maker in terms of who plays and minutes. And not that one is better than the other, but obviously when I was with the Whitecaps, I almost worked with Robbo on a daily basis as to who was going to play, who shouldn't play, and how we manage minutes. And did we give the first team players opportunities, or did we bring up the guys from the academy, or did we play the Whitecaps 2 players? So they were both very, very different types of challenges. When you're with an organization like the Whitecaps, and my role as the head coach of the 2 team, you have to work with a lot of people on your day-to-day decisions. I think here, from a technical perspective with FC Cincinnati, I'm really the person that has to make all those technical decisions. So that in itself has been different. I wouldn't say it's any more of a challenge. It's just a different type of challenge.
And you've been a BC boy for a long, long time. You've been at SFU, you've been at the Whitecaps, you've lived here, worked here. What's it like living in the States, in Ohio? You seem like, following you on Twitter, you seem to have a great time. There's the zoo, seems a wonderful city to live in.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I think I'm a proud Canadian now, that's for sure. Vancouver is, it's my home. I've been in and out of Vancouver since 1996. I'm also a proud South African, of course. It's where I was born and raised. But coming to Cincinnati has been a whole different environment. There's no ocean here and there's no mountains, but there are some nice rolling hills and some beautiful places in the city to get out and go see. I love the diversity of Vancouver, and I love the diversity of Cincinnati too. There's a lot of different people from different walks of life here. It's just great to be part of a community. Vancouver, obviously, as a city, has a great community, but so does Cincinnati. And I think the big, beautiful part of this profession is it takes us to so many different places. I've been lucky to have either played or coached in 6 different countries, and every one has just been different. There's no one that's better or worse than any other. So being in a place like Cincinnati, other than, I think all I knew before I came here was WKRP in Cincinnati from many, many years ago.
Me too.
I've slowly learned a lot more about the city, and it's a nice place to live, that's for sure.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time today, Alan. Wish you all the best at FC Cincinnati this season, beyond, and also good luck in the US Open Cup. It would be great to see you knock off another MLS team and hopefully have a good run to the final.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michael. I appreciate it.
That's great. Thanks, Alan.
If you've ever wondered whatever became of me, I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, WKRP.
So good a theme that we just had to play it again. But Alan Koch there talking about all things Whitecaps 2 and FC Cincinnati, and it was really great to catch up with him again. A lot of time for Rich Fagan, known him for a couple of years, but Alan and me go way back 5-6 years to his clan days, and I miss him being around and
SFU clan days.
Oh yeah,
SFU clan days.
Let's stress that, SFU clan days, before we get into some serious trouble there. But he's a good coach. He's an ambitious coach, and he's landed at an ambitious club. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him when you go to a club like that, and they have had a mixed start to the season, but they've started to turn things around. And if they can get a cup run, they've got Chicago Fire next. Schweinsteiger may be taking the pitch against Cincinnati there, but the crowds that they're drawing, they had over 70,000 fans for their games in the past week.
It's pretty incredible. It shows that people in that community want football at a high level, and so it's really encouraging.
And also might show MLS that maybe they made a mistake and picked the wrong city in Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, that's, Columbus is, how Columbus is a part of MLS is a bit of like an ongoing joke for over 20 years.
I mean, Cincinnati...
No offense to the community there, but like...
Yeah. Well,
they haven't supported it.
But you could kind of say that about Dallas as well. They struggle to draw the fans.
Even
when they're winning the contract. But they're also in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, the location of the stadium is off.
The location of the stadium is off, but the community in terms of the TV value or whatever is there. Columbus is not... There's no. It's not good in that sense, and it's not good in the stadium.
But I mean, Cincinnati's clearly going to be a future MLS town. They're courting that just now. Sacramento, the other big USL team that's looking to get into MLS, and at some point, it is going to reach saturation point. If Don Garber sticks to him not going past 28 teams, although
there's no chance.
He was sticking that he wasn't going past 20 and then 24 and then 28.
No chance.
At some point, and I hate the idea of this, but it does make sense. If you've got these emerging markets coming through, you do have to look at some of the existing markets and say, do you keep a first level MLS team in those markets?
The pyramid scheme of everyone's paying the more money and whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's going to keep going as long as people are willing to pay those.
150 million.
I think it's called a Ponzi scheme.
Well, okay, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 150 million they're talking about just now. So who knows what it's going to be?
But remember, these are they lose money.
Yeah, of course. And we'll be doing our Kickstarter to raise the $200 million expansion fee to get our own team into MLS somewhere down the line. So chip into that. Every little counts.
Why would you do that when you can get into the Canadian League?
I just want to raise $200 million.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's quite a challenge.
Whether I then disappear and the team doesn't materialise.
Brazil is a good country.
It's like, hey, look at my new Brazilian team. Look at my Brazilian. Actually, don't look at my Brazilian, just...
Oh, man.
Put that up there. Anyway, so for this final part of the podcast, we're going to turn our attention to a fun little way to end the show, because we've got Wavelength coming up and a fun chat. What more could you want after the difficult week than a little bit of fun? I'm assuming this is fun, because when I read this, I was like, surely this cannot be serious. But if anyone hasn't seen this, IFAB, which has nothing to do with the Beatles, they're a governing group of football made up of members from Scotland, England, Ireland and Wales. So obviously English people don't really know much about football, so they're trying to change the rules. And they brought out a document this week for discussion, and it certainly generated a lot of discussion about some of the changes they would like to see to the game of football. Doesn't matter that we've had association football rules for 150 years, they want to change some of them. Now I'm being a little bit cynical here, but some of the rules do make a lot of sense.
Yeah, they're not all bad.
No. Some of them do make a lot of sense. Some of them, it's a bit of a head scratcher, and you do have to feel that money, TV revenue, advertising, everything like that's behind them. We've all had a chance to look over it, and we'll read some tweets from listeners that we've had as well. But what was your thoughts when you saw this?
I know that they're explicit in this, and they're at least the one article that we were sharing on social media. But a number of the things that they're trying to achieve can really be done by the correct, accurate enforcement of some of the laws of the game as they currently exist.
Yeah, and they mentioned that because if you read the articles themselves, a lot of the people are not mentioning that they have like levels. They're saying that this can be done right away. This is for experimentation. This could be for discussion. So they're not even saying everything's, you should do all these.
Yeah.
And they mentioned for example, the time wasting. They say that they should enforce that more strictly and say when, say, for example, when the goalie has the ball in his hand, enforce the 6-second rule. When the ball goes for substitution, as soon as the whistle goes for substitution, add every minute or second that person's off, and then round it up or round it down.
The 6 seconds with the keeper. It sounds like they just want the London 2012, women's rules for that.
Yeah, I mean the big thing which a lot of folk are talking about is they are looking at changing from 2 45-minute halves, and remember this is just all open for discussion, but 2 45-minute halves to 2 30-minute halves. But the clock will stop, so you'll actually see 60 minutes of guaranteed football action as opposed to just now where there's been various kind of studies done and you're seeing less than a 60-minute game of action in a normal game with the ball being out, stoppages, subs, injuries, etc.
And again, that's, to me, one of the... they're worried about the amount of football that's actually being played. Fair enough. If that's your concern, then actually have referees do what some of the laws of the game already indicate for them to do. So, Steve, you mentioned there, okay, keep track of extra time when certain things happen. They talk about, when a penalty is given, stop the referee stops his, because he has a watch where he's keeping track of time. Yeah. Stop it when it's given until it's actually taken. There's ways. So if you're worried about
and the goal being scored,
right
to the kickoff, so people let them celebrate as much as they want, and then you don't have to worry about yellow cards for that.
Well, no, there's different reasons for yellow cards. So that time is one of them, or it can be one of them. But no, if they just enforce some of those things, it would be fine. One of the things that I appreciated when I came to discover the game of association football was the running clock, and was the control or the influence or the ability for the match official to decide how much okay, we played, but we missed part. Okay, we're going to play more. I like that human element. I know we're taking other human elements out of the refereeing's job with VAR and stuff in the near future in some parts of the world. But a lot of these things, to me, it's kind of like, no, if you're concerned about the amount of playing time, then there's other ways to make sure we see closer to 45 minutes of actual football.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't even, because right now the 45 minutes of 2 halves and then running clock and everything, it's 2 hours long. You don't have to worry about it going to 2.5, like other sports, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, because of all the stoppages in play. So I don't, for TV wise, that might actually be a bad thing, because I don't think they're going to take commercials for the few seconds that ball's out of bounds or anything.
Look at CFL, where the final 30 seconds of a game can last 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh,
wait, you watch the CFL?
No, I love the CFL.
No, not the CFL, the basketball. If you ever watch basketball, college basketball or anything like that, that last minute can be 5-6 minutes. So yeah, I think the running time is fine. Keep it that.
I enjoy the running time, and I'd rather see 10 minutes of extra time because there was 10 minutes of time added on because 10 minutes was wasted. I personally rather see that, which TV people won't want, because then
because then you're overrunning.
Right, but here's the problem in North America. At least in Canada. The States, I think, is mostly better. A broadcast for a football match should be no less than 100 or 150 minutes. Yeah. It should be no less than 2.5 hours, because you should have a bit pregame and you should have a bit postgame.
Right now, they squeeze the pregame in, they squeeze the postgame into
right
nothing.
Now, if you get the game to start on time on the TV, it's a bit of a miracle.
Right.
Usually join about 7
3 hours. 3 full hours is actually be the best for a broadcast of a football match.
One of the rules I really like is the one that if somebody does a handball on the goal line, it's an automatic goal. For example, you go back to the game and with the World Cup. Yeah, Suarez in Ghana. and they wouldn't even they missed a penalty kick.
Yeah,
and you see Suarez cheering on the background.
I don't fault him for that because it's like he kept his team in the tournament and they went through. So as much as it's like
before they lost to the Germans,
yeah. Two teams you don't know who to root for there.
And this was the 2 World Cups before he bit somebody. So
yeah, this is nothing about biting.
No, nothing about biting.
Yeah. No, I didn't say anything about biting. I mean, I thought this would be sort of widely slammed, but it's actually had quite a good reaction from a lot of people.
But not holistic. There's people who like parts of it.
Yeah. I'm a traditionalist and I don't like change for change's sake. I don't like the offside rule. And I kind of wouldn't mind getting rid of the offside rule because that would make games more wide open.
What do you guys think about zonal offside?
It's confusing enough for referees just now.
Where you have an additional line or something like that.
I'm okay with offside.
Okay.
I just think it would make it a bit more exciting. So I'm not total traditional.
How about halftime whistle and full-time whistle when the ball's been kicked out of play?
I like that, but
if you got rid of offsides, you would have a striker who's always on the keeper.
Cherry picking.
Which is how I played when I was a lad. I'm trying to carve a career out for myself still.
In the VMSL?
Yeah, I was a poacher. I was kind of thinking Canadian Premier League.
Oh, there you go. No, I would not like that.
How about halftime whistle? The ball has to be kicked out of play in order
for
the whistle to go.
Because they've got it in rugby union and it makes it exciting because the team has to... The opposing team, like Scotland played Australia at the weekend, and it was those final seconds, it was past the 80-minute mark, Australia still had the ball, and if they scored, they were going to win it. And just the tension that provides, because it's like they know as soon as the ball goes out, it's over, so they just threw everything at Scotland. Scotland threw everything back at them. I think it would make it a very dramatic ending to games.
I don't mind that. The game has to end on it, like the ball going out or an infraction. I would be okay with that. I sometimes I don't like how it seems it's not a rule or whatever. I don't always like how they often wait for like a goal kick and they whistle while it's in the air. I don't enjoy that.
Yeah. How about the self-passing corner kick?
No.
I don't like that
That's
either.
That's one I hate.
That sounds so stupid.
It's like, let's take a corner to ourselves, or let's take a free kick to ourselves, or a goal kick.
I think FIFA, I think I could be wrong, but they just I don't know if they changed or highlighted or augmented a rule because I think someone did this professionally. This is something kids do, right? Where you go to take a corner kick and like one guy goes and like you call for a guy like who's supposed to take the corner kick and the person as you switch, that person kind of just rolls the ball, and the next guy comes and picks up and then runs in and has a shot, a goal, or an.
It's clever.
Yeah, but I thought they augmented the rule so you can't do that anymore.
I don't know.
Like a year or two ago or something.
There was one I know that you took a bit of umbrage at, Zach, which was the fact that if a penalty is taken and the keeper saves it, then the play's dead. There's no chance for a rebound, which is ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. You want to take away some goal-scoring opportunities, a rebound or off the cross.
How will Freddie Montero score?
Oh man, I can't see that happening. I can't see them taking away some potential prime goal-scoring opportunities in matches.
What's your thoughts on ABBA?
Yeah, I like the ABBA. Actually, the ABBA one is probably one of the ones that stood out to me as like, oh, that would be interesting just to see, just something different. Even if they tried it for a couple tournaments and we saw what it was like.
And we're not talking about the Swedish band, obviously. But
would it make you go, Mamma Mia? Would you take a chance on me?
So what Michael is talking about, of course, is a new way of doing the penalty kick shootout so that the Team A goes and then Team B goes twice.
Yeah.
And then Team A
It's almost like a serpentine.
Yeah.
You go order kind of thing. So it's the first team, 2 teams, and then 2 kicks, and then 2 kicks.
That's one of the ones I'm quite on the fence on. I don't know. I think
it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
You put it in some Confederations Cup or U20 or
it could be really confusing and it could kill some of the drama because I love penalty shootouts. Not when my team's involved. East Fife lost 7 Scottish first round League Cup games on penalty shootouts. 7 straight. It was a record. I wrote an article about it for when Saturday comes. Never seen anything like it.
Well, at least you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, it just turned up after 120 minutes. You didn't have to bother with the whole game.
Having a German background, I always know what's going to happen in the penalties.
Yeah. Well, especially against
at the national level.
Let's read some tweets. Christina on Twitter, at Mudcree, she says that if they're going to be cutting the games down to 60 minutes, she'd like a reduction on her season ticket prices. Maybe 40% less. Jay San at Rattigan Khan says he doesn't see it helping very much, and if anything, it's likely to wreck the game. Whitecap Scarf says no, he's all for tradition. He doesn't want to wreck the game. If they want to, they can make PKs like the old MLS style.
Oh, no.
Or NASL, I think he means. Or did MLS have that?
MLS had some crazy shootouts at the beginning, I think. But no to that.
Patrick Stevens at Dedan, Dedagn, I have no idea how to pronounce that, it's late. A clearer and more consistent definition of handball, which is one of them. Yes, please, he says. It's...
Okay, but what do you...
It does...
What do we want? How much clearer?
It's like... Well, just now, it's like you're like, oh, is it a hand, ball to hand?
But that's pretty defined in the laws of the game.
But then you can analyse it as well. It's like, was that ball to hand? Was there any motion?
And that's what the referee's got. That's what the referee has to decide.
Yeah.
Chris Corrigan also says he likes the idea of letting a player do whatever they want on a free kick. He likes that, like dribble, pass, etc. Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen with that. If you do that, you're going to have a guy who gets fouled when they have numbers. When they have the numbers, so let's say a 4-on-2 or something. He's going to get fouled by one of the players. One of the players is going to run and grab the ball and go right away, and it's going to cause some dangerous tackles, and or some kind of like chaotic attacking strategies that I don't think are the best of the game.
You're kind of selling me on it now.
Murray Lynn actually makes a point that you made, Steve, that hockey is 60 minutes and it takes 3 hours to watch a game.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas soccer is 62. Murray's also indifferent about one of the other rules, which is substituted players can leave the pitch just wherever they want. I quite like that. To save players going to the other touchline and then slowly trotting over.
But that's, again, a thing that is currently within the control of the referee. If the referee feels that a player is taking too long to leave the field, through the middle of the field, through the halfway line as they're supposed to, they can add time on for that. So... sure, add clarity to that. Say, okay, anytime you feel a player's wasting time, add 30 seconds. Yeah. Add a minute.
I say have all the players with the harnesses at the beginning of the game and just bring lines down and just hook them to the harness and take them away when the substitution happens.
Just the last couple here from Murray Lynn. He's got another idea as well, which is, and I quite like this idea actually, if a penalty's about to get given, you let the play continue just to see, for a few seconds to see what happens. Because there has been occasions, referees point it to a spot, the ball's loose and then someone buries it. Split second of him blowing the whistle. So I wouldn't mind allowing a little bit of play for a few seconds after a PK.
After PK, I think play should go on. One of the things I think that Association Football fails at compared to her, let's call it birth sibling, is I really, really enjoy, and I don't watch a lot of it, so I'm not a great maybe person to talk about the details or intricacies of it, but I really enjoy how referees deal with advantage in rugby. Like they wait
I like
to make
the
sure.
Respect that I've talked about this before.
Respect for officials
that
is another one. Yes,
get in rugby.
The refereeing in rugby is spot on most of the time. There's rarely a bad call.
At the Confederations Cup this summer, only the captain's allowed to talk to the referee.
Yes,
like
which I don't mind as well.
Well, that's part of the
exactly
rule. Yeah,
get an angry David Ousted yelling at the referee. I mean, what could go wrong?
That was
there?
great with him.
That was
Hedges,
fantastic. Yeah. Last thing then on this subject from Murray Lynn. Sorry for the rant, he says, but most of this is trapezoid behind the net. No touch icing, stupid. If I wanted rules like this, I would just go watch a bunch of non-competitive, non-athletic hippies and hipsters play Ultimate. I'm with you there, Murray.
Do you know what he means when he says Ultimate?
Yeah, Frisbee.
Oh, okay.
It's ridiculous. Even my dog Bailey won't play with a Frisbee. So we're nearly at the end of the show, but we always have time for Wavelength. And it's been a difficult week. So we thought we'd maybe end on an upbeat note. A song from perennial favourites of the show, Half Man, Half Biscuit.
Ait, it's not a dirge? A dirge, this would be the appropriate show for one of your dirges.
I will ask you after you hear the song. It's a traditional story. Man's friend dies, goes to visit his grieving widow, and points out to her, look, he's dead now. He doesn't need a season ticket. This is Half Man, Half Biscuit. Dead men don't need season tickets.
Oh, man.
Dead men don't need season tickets. Maybe I'm forward, maybe I'm morbid. Dead men don't need season tickets.
Told you we were going to end the show on an upbeat note there. We're all bouncing along to that in the studio there. I was surprised even Zach's like bopping along to that one. Half Man, Half Biscuit there. Dead Men Don't Need Season Tickets from their 1997 album Voyage to the Bottom of the Road. And you can be sure to know that we'll have more Half Man, Half Biscuit in this section as the weeks go on. That is our 25th Wavelength song that we've played this year. Folks said, where are you going to find all these football songs from? Have a lot more to come. So just before we go, just a couple of things we want to mention. Want to wish the Residency good luck this week at the playoffs in Indiana, the 16s and the 18s. You'll get full coverage on AFTN.ca this week. Also, if you want some live soccer action this weekend, a lot to pick from. WFC2 at home on Saturday. And then Friday and Sunday, TSS Rovers, Victoria Highlanders. The Juan de Fuca plate is back. And there's a lot to play for. 7 o'clock at Swan Guard on Friday night. 6 o'clock at Swan Guard on Sunday night.
Oh, it's double home.
Double home.
Double home.
And TSS Rovers undefeated at home. So get along there, guard the Swan, and join the Swan Guardians, who have something a little bit special we hear planned for this Friday night.
Should be good.
$10 tickets. If you can't get along to the game in action, you can hear myself and Gideon Hill call the game on YouTube. Don't miss that. So just before we go.
Can I
get something to say?
So just two things. First off, if you are a Whitecap supporter, whether you're a current season ticket holder or not, if you haven't already connected with either the Vancouver Southsiders or Curva Collective on general admission, please reach out and do so. Especially if you're someone who would be interested in being part of a unified GA supporter section at BC Place in the future. If that's something that interests you, please contact one of those groups. You can find them on social media all over the place. They'd love to engage with you on that or have conversations with you about that. Secondly, we talk about all facets of the Whitecaps organization on a weekly basis, obviously. And often when we talk about the front office, it's usually not very positive.
Well, not from you.
Well, but and we do try and highlight some of the good things they do. But
I mean, you feel that FO stands for something else when you're talking about the front office, I believe.
So I just wanted to take a moment just to a couple of people are moving on from the front office this week. This is their last couple of days. One is a woman named Efrat Gal-Or. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Efrat is the director of events. She's served the club for almost 10 years or roughly 10 years in various roles, but especially with event stuff. She's one of the people who makes everything happen at BC Place. She's someone who's a part of our supporter front office meetings on an ongoing basis for these last number of years, and someone who's worked really, really hard at trying to make the football club better. Yeah, for Efrat, all our best as you move on to a new local opportunity. all the best to you and to your family for the future. And the other person is someone named, and I always mispronounce her name, named Lisa. I call her Lisa Monica Morai. I think it's probably
That's Amore.
I think it's Lisa Monica Amore. Anyways, Lisa is someone who has been at the club more than 10 years and has worked in various things. When Curva Collective started, she was one of the people that we connected with in the front office over a number of different supporter-related issues, and was really helpful, and someone we, as a movement, always really enjoyed working with and really appreciated how she dealt with us and how she treated that relationship. And even though she wasn't always involved with the supporter stuff, she moved on to being involved with WFC2. She
was the directing manager.
Yeah, she had a huge role at WFC2. Her last kind of big thing at the club was with the new facility. So she helped, a bunch of stuff with getting the new facility built out here at UBC. So I also just want to wish Lisa all the best as well. She has a new local opportunity that she's moving on to, and just wish her and her family all the best. And to both Lisa and Efrat, thanks so much for your contributions to our football club over this significant period of time.
I didn't know our goodbye was going to be longer than the rest of the show, but there we go.
We'll cut this out of the podcast.
Well, no point putting this in. So just before we go, let everyone know where they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at whitecapsbeat.
I am at Zachary AM on Twitter, and I'm a part of the movement Curva Collective.
I'm Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Read our stuff away from the numbers on aftn.ca. Drop us an email if you want to get in touch, aftncanada@hotmail.com. We've also launched our Instagram account, so give us a follow on that, at AFTN Soccer, where it won't just be Whitecap stuff, we're going to just have a general soccer Instagram account. And this podcast is brought to you in conjunction with bcsoccerweb.com, your one-stop site for all your local, national and international news and links. Visit bcsoccerweb.com every morning and get all the news you need to know.
And classifieds too.
Yes. That is it for this episode of the podcast. As always, thanks for listening. Take care.
And mon the caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left, yeah, but